Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm your host Bob Cooper and this is the HEXPOL Leadership Series. Today on the show we have Chris Poirier. Chris Poirier is the Business Development Manager for HEXPOL Silicone. Chris, welcome to the show and it's a pleasure to have you.
Bob, good seeing you, man.
Chris is going to be talking to us today about leaving a legacy. So Chris, that's a very, very interesting topic and it goes a long span. You know, it's about what do you want to leave after you're gone. So Chris, through your experience and through your learning, let our viewers know what your perception is, what are your thoughts, what's your take on leaving a legacy? Well,
Bob, you know, is leaving a lasting value as a leader, you know, whether it's a leader, parent, child, is measured by our impact we have on people. Our legacy can be either positive or it can be negative. But in order for us to add value, we must leave a positive impact.
So Chris, when I think of legacy, I think of after the impact someone left, after they're gone. So is it something that we need to worry about now?
Yeah, of course, Bob. If you have a desire to make a positive impact as a leader on a future generation, you need to be highly intentional about it. And you need to leave a legacy today. Start today. Can't wait.
So how do we become highly intentional about leaving a legacy? And most importantly, what do we have to do? If we want to start now, we want to start leaving a legacy now, what must we do?
Well, Bob, before we discuss this, can I tell you a short story about a mistake I made earlier in my career?
Yeah,
get
definitely.
This point across?
Yeah, definitely. We'd love to hear the story.
Okay. Well, Bob, back late in the 1990s, I was put in charge of set up operations for a greenfield facility in Virginia. The plant was successful as we grew, and over the next 2 years, we had put together a highly successful team. We were making money, we were profitable. I felt from like an operational standpoint I had done a good job.
So basically developing business expansion and creating a successful team really doesn't sound like that bad of a job in all actuality. Or it doesn't sound like you made any mistakes or failures. So you have to give us some more insight. I mean, you developed success, expansion, so what exactly were the failures here? What did you learn?
Yeah, let me tell you about that. So work was going well, but my family really wasn't happy in Virginia. So I got an opportunity to move back to Georgia. And when I realized I made a mistake as a leader was when I was sitting down during the exit interview. I had a first shift supervisor who had become a good friend of mine, somebody that we worked together together, did a great job, was great from an operational standpoint. And when I sat down, the HR manager asked me if he was ready to take over the position, my position. And then I had to take a step back and look. He was not ready to take over that position, and that was on me. That was my fault, Bob. You know, I didn't pass the baton. I didn't leave a good legacy. I didn't prepare him to take over that role, and that made a big impact on my life.
So that's a pretty powerful story that can really make you think. And one of the most important things that we must do for our own growth and learning is to recognize our mistakes, and we have to reflect on those mistakes in order to act on them. So what did you learn from these mistakes?
Well, you know, I learned that you need to be intentional, and I'll kind of tell you how you need to be intentional. First, you need to know the legacy that you want to leave. Okay, people will summarize your life in a single sentence one day. Okay, pick that sentence now. What do you want that sentence to be about your life? What do you want people to think about you? Live the legacy that you want to live, that you want to leave. Really, to have credibility as a leader, you need to walk the talk, and then choose who will carry your legacy on. Legacy lives on people, not things. Too often, leaders put their energy into organizations, buildings, things that they had done. But only people live on after we're gone, not this building. So everything else is just temporary.
Okay, so we've discussed the importance of leaving a legacy and why we should start now. And it all starts with basically what legacy do you want to leave, and live, you know, actually live the legacy that you want to leave. And then you have to choose who's going to carry on that legacy. So what do we do next? What's the next step?
Well, you make sure you pass the baton. Okay. No matter how well you lead, if you don't pass that baton, you will not leave a legacy. So find somebody you can pass that baton to.
All right, Chris, so I think you left us all hanging just a little bit because you were talking about the guy before, the guy that you had made the mistake that you didn't pass the baton to. So can you give us a little bit of insight as to how did that story end? You obviously you mentioned that you learned from your mistake, you reflected upon it, and it helped you grow as an individual and what you should do next. But tell us a little bit about how that story ended.
Yeah, okay. Well, about a year after I left, had an expanding opportunity down in Georgia, and I was able to hire this person. And then I became intentional about mentoring him. And I worked with him daily. Instead of just having him worry about fighting fires, we looked more long-term plans. And when I came to HEXPOL, he took over for me in that position, is now running the plant. The other thing that was had a big impact that also came out of Virginia is I received a phone call years back from this actually was a second shift supervisor. And he wanted to tell me two things. First and most important, he wanted to tell me he had 3 kids that went to college. And this was a big deal for him. Nobody ever in his family had gone on to college, including himself. And he told me during that call that he doesn't believe any one of those things wouldn't have happened if I hadn't motivated him and just made him want more out of life. And you know, and so I did leave a positive impact there, even though maybe I failed in some areas. But to this day, this is probably one of the most important phone calls I've ever gotten, or just as far as making me feel like I was successful.
You know, Chris, that's a pretty amazing story when you want to talk about impact and influence. When you had a guy that you didn't pass the baton to, and you realized that you made that mistake. Even though that company was successful and you had expansion, that one thing stuck with you. And to me, you having the opportunity to go back and work with him, to truly be intentional about mentoring him and about passing that baton, to me that sounds like leaving a legacy. And you know, and one of the greatest rewards for us as leaders is seeing other people's growth before our eyes.
Yeah, Bob, you know, I think it's all about being intentional. You can have good outcomes, you can have bad outcomes, you're going to have some bad outcomes. But just work at it and don't do it for yourself. Do it. There's more satisfaction working with somebody and watching their career be success, you'll find. So.
You know, and I think about this. You and I had spent some time together in Muscle Shoals when I first transferred from Ohio down to Muscle Shoals. And I was the
mistake of my life.
and I was the guy that needed some mentoring. You know, I was arrogant. I was all about me. I was all about what can I do to make myself look good. What do I have to do? And I didn't really think about anybody else, and I didn't worry about anybody else. But with you being intentional and helping mentor me to help me understand what it means to be humble and what it means to be a team player is probably one of the main reasons why I am where I am today.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit of insight about, you know, when you encounter people that were like me, what do you do and how do you reach them to help them see things in a bigger picture?
Well, I think, Bob, the first thing is it's all about honesty. You can't sugarcoat it. You know, you have to point out. We all have flaws. Look, we all have things we want to work on. You just have to point those out. Fortunately enough, you acted on it and you weren't in denial of some of the issues that you had. And you know, you did the same for me. You fixed me in a lot of different ways too. You know, by telling me things that I had issues with. So I think the biggest thing is you just got to be straight up honest with somebody about what their weaknesses are, and then help them. You know, don't look down on them because of it. Just work with them and help them and make them better. And I think that's it. Just be honest with them.
Great, good stuff. So Chris, if you could wrap up leaving a legacy, if you could sum all this up, what's the key takeaway? What's the one thing that you want to get across to our viewers that you want them to remember and be stuck in their mind that they can apply themselves?
Well, Bob, I heard a really good quote from Jackie Robinson. It says, "A life isn't significant except for its impact on others' lives," which I think is pretty cool. So, you know, really in the end, we're going to be judged by the law of the legacy. So please be intentional as a leader at work. Also your community, and even more your family.
You know, Chris, that's a pretty powerful topic that we had today, and I wanted to thank you very much for coming on the show and talking to our viewers about leaving a legacy. And I think we're going to generate some impact with this and help people become intentional about passing that baton down, about passing that knowledge down, because really it's all about what you leave to others, right?
Yeah, it is, Bob. And just the fact that you're doing this show, pretty meaningful to me, so I appreciate it.
I appreciate you being
Thanks,
here,
man.
Chris. And as always, you grow your business by growing your people, and this is the HEXPOL Leadership Series.